Okay, vino madunai no heno aleno maaseh adenu kone na aleno maaseh adenu koneu. So I just want to give a class on the laws of Hanukkah. It's a little late, unfortunately. We should have started this in the beginning of the holiday, but better late than never. Just don't call me late to dinner, yes? So I just want to, there's a concept of shoalim v'dorshim b'hilchot ha-Pesach shloshim yom lifnei ha-Pesach. There's a din, it's in the Mishnah, it's brought in the Mishnah, it's brought in the Halakha and the Shulchan Aruch. Shoalim v'dorshim in the laws of Pesach 30 days before. So from here we learn, not only for Pesach, but also for Sukkot, and for any holiday. What does it mean, shoalim v'dorshim? What does that mean, shoalim v'dorshim?
Discuss about it.
So generally, when a teacher is giving a class, the student is only allowed to ask questions that is pertaining to the topic of the class. Sometimes you have students that will ask questions of a teacher because they want to show the teacher up. So they'll ask a question that is not related to the class. So let's say the rabbi is giving a class on the laws of Shabbat, and he asks a question about the laws of Yom Kippur, but it's Kippur is not for 6 months. He may not have reviewed those halachot recently. So that's an inappropriate question. And the rabbi has a right to say, I'm not going to answer that question right now. I'll answer that at another time, yes? But when it's 30 days before the holiday, then even if the class that's being given is related to a different topic, it is permitted for the student to ask a question in the topic of the holiday. That's what I mean, shoalin, which means the students are allowed to ask questions 30 days before the holiday. What is dorshim? Everybody has to become familiar 30 days, and within those 30 days before the holiday, of the laws of the holiday. Pesach, why is Pesach the one that's picked? Because Pesach has the most halachot. Pesach, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, many simanim in the Shulchan Aruch on Pesach. It's very complicated. Now, what about the holiday itself? Of course, the Kal Vachomer. If a person has to learn the halachot of the holiday 30 days before, on the holiday itself, of course, a person has to learn the halachot of the holiday. Yes? What's that? Well, it's too late, but like I said, better late than never. You know, if you did it wrong for the first 4 days, at least we can have another 4 days, so we're doing it right. Yes. Okay. So that's just the concept of from a. Now, what does it mean, halacha? What does that word mean, halacha? Exactly, halicha, meaning what? How a person walks through life. The Torah is a guide to give a person the direction that they need to guide through life. That's why it's called halacha. Right? Meaning what? Of course, that it means when a person's walking, but what derech is talked about there? Of course, a person should be learning Torah all the time, even when they're traveling, yes? But also means when a person is b'derech hachayim. A person always should be involved in the Torah and the Derech HaChaim. And Baruch Hashem, there's nothing in the halacha that is not touched. There's nothing in a person's life that is not touched by the halacha. What shoe a person puts on in the morning first, which shoelace you tie first. This is all touched on by the halacha. Okay? So that's the first thing I want to mention. Now, the second thing I want to mention is that we have, of course, the concept of Torah, din from the Torah. Yes? The Torah has various commandments like basar v'halav, kashrut. There are things in the Torah. And then we have mitzvot midrabanan. We have rabbinic enactments. There are 2 different kinds of rabbinic enactments. One is a siyag, which means there's already a Torah prohibition there, and the rabbis wanted to make sure that the person doesn't violate the Torah prohibition. So what do? They make a fence. The word siyag means a fence. They make a fence around it. So what's an example of a siyag? All the halachot of mukseh and Shabbat. From the Torah, there's no concept of mukseh. There's no issue. Mukseh is not a Torah concept. It's a rabbinic concept. Because what will happen, let's say if a person has a pen, and generally what does a person do with a pen? They write. And ketiva of 2 letters is mitzvah. It's a isur d'oraita. Yes? Person's not allowed to write 2 letters according to 2 letters in Ashurit on Shabbat. So if a person writes 2 letters, so therefore, why would you carry a pen with you? Why would you move a pen? So the rabbis made a siyag, okay, which is basically mukseh, halachot of mukseh. Where did the rabbis learn the concept of siyag? We know in Pirkei Avot it says, Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, one of the things they said is Asu Siag La Torah. But where did they learn that from? Where do we learn the concept that the rabbis have the permission to make a fence around the Torah? Again, the rabbis would have that permission anyway, but they always want to base it on something in the Torah. Yeah, Asu Siag La Torah. Three Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. Three things they said. One of the things they said is Asu Siag La Torah. Where they learn that from?
In the Torah it says.
Where?
I don't know. I don't remember. So said you have to follow the.
Okay, you have to follow what the Torah says. Where do we learn an example of the Torah making a fence around herself?
Has to be in.
I'll give you a hint.
After Matan Torah, I assume.
No, where do we see that the Torah itself makes a prohibition and then itself puts a fence around the prohibition? It's in the Arayot. It says, Vel isha benidat devota al tikrav legalot ervata. Right? What is the isur from the Torah that carries with it the death penalty? Relations, karet. A man who has relations, or a woman and man who have relations when she's nida. It's all the arayot are asur. Yes, all the arayot are asur. Yes, nowhere else does it say lo tikrav. All the other arayot it says a person who sleeps with his sister. Right? He's I'm not proving your point. You'll see in a second. So we see that the death penalty is from the arayot. Okay. Lo tikrav is a siyag. It's a fence. If a person has chibuk v'nishuk, hugging or kissing with a woman who's nida, what's the halacha? Death, karet? No. Lashes. So we see the Torah makes a siyag. Chibuk v'nishuk. Chibuk is hugging, yes, and nishuk is kissing in a romantic kind of way. So is it asur? That's asur. Where do we learn that from? Lo tikrav. So the Torah tells us you can't have relations with a woman when she's nida. Yes? If a person has relations with a nida, what is that? That's asur karet. Yes? That's karet. And then the Torah says lo tikrav, meaning what? Don't get close. Meaning what? Don't hug and kiss, because that leads to arayot. So, right. So we see here's an example where the Torah puts a fence around herself, and from here the rabbis learn. It's called a smachta. They learn that they're allowed to put fences around the Torah. Okay, that's one example of rabbinic law where they put fences around Torah laws. Another one is gezerot. They see people are failing in a certain item, they make gezerot, like all the laws of yichud. The laws of yichud. In the Torah, there is no laws of yichud. The laws of yichud were put in place. Why? Because of the incident that happened with David's children. David HaMelech, Amnon and Tamar, a brother and sister, they had relations. So David HaMelech made the din of yichud, and then as time went on, they strengthened the laws of yichud to the point where we are today. And then there are rabbinic mitzvot. There are 7 mitzvot. There are 613 mitzvot in the Torah, 245 mitzvot aseh, 248 mitzvot aseh, 365 mitzvot lo ta'aseh. Yes? And there are 7 rabbinic commandments. There are 7 commandments that are from the rabbis. And what are those 7? Hallel. That is rabbinic. Nowhere does it say in the Torah and Sukkot you're supposed to say Hallel. Hallel. Brachot, making brachot. This is a rabbinic enactment, okay? With the exception of 2 brachot. Which brachot are from the Torah? One is easy. No, that's not from the Torah. That's not from the Torah. Which beracha is written in the Torah? Which beracha does a person have to say that carries with it a din of Torah? Exactly. Birkat Hamazon, ve'achalta, ve'savata, ve'rachta. That's one that's from the Torah. And there's another example of a mitzvah from the Torah, according to many opinions. Kishem Adonai ekra havu godel lelohenu. Which means when you're about to learn Torah, before you learn Torah, before you get an aliyat to Sefer Torah, you have to make a beracha. And according to many opinions, that's a mitzvah aseh from the Torah. That before a person learns, when we make Birchot HaShachar in the morning, Birchot HaShachar is rabbinic. But according to many opinions, Birchot HaTorah is mideoraitas, from the Torah. So the rest of all the blessings, which are blessings that a person, when he does a mitzvah, or a blessing when a person has some food and eat, yes? And bracha, also bracha achrona, like na'ala michya, because that's me'en shalosh, right? That's similar to Birkat Hamazon, but something like borei nafashot, that's all rabbinic, okay? So brachot is rabbinic. Netilat yadayim, before eating, that is rabbinic, okay? Eruv on Shabbat, all eruv tavshilin, eruv hatzerot, this is all midrabanan. Lighting candles on Shabbat, Friday night, that is midrabanan. That's a Torah, that's a mitzvah from the rabbis. And then we have Purim, which is Mikra Megillah. Like the Megillah doesn't say to read the Megillah. The other mitzvot are from Divrei Kabbalah, because in the Megillah it says Matanot ish lere'ehu, right? Matanot, right? It says Matanot le'evyonim, right? And it says Mishloach manot ish lere'ehu, right? And of course Seudah. And then the last one, of course, is Hanukkah. This is a rabbinic mitzvah. Okay, so that's the context of that. Now we start with the Torah. Many halachot are from the Torah, yes, but the Torah doesn't give us a lot of details on many things. Torah leaves out a lot. I'll give you an example. Basar behalav. Yes, meat and milk together. What's the halakha? A person's not allowed to have meat and milk together. You're not allowed to eat them. How many times did Torah mention that? How many times did Torah mention that? 3 times. Lo tavashel gedi b'halev imo is mentioned 3 times. Okay? Why 3 times? 1, to tell you the prohibition of cooking them together. 1, to tell you the prohibition of eating them together. And 1, to tell you the prohibition of making money, hana'ah, profit from basar behalav. Okay? So the Torah only tells, and there's a lot of dinim that have to do with basar behalav. Yes? That's all from in the Torah open the door for Tomer. That's all from the Torah be'al peh. On Har Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu, how many Torahs did he receive? My wife's opening it. You gotta put the thing over there. How many Torahs did Moshe Rabbeinu receive on Har Sinai? How many Torahs did Moshe Rabbeinu receive on Har Sinai?
How many Torah?
How many Torot?
2.
2. Torah shebichtav, Torah shebe'al peh. One without the other is not good.
Total 4.
Why 4?
Because 2 in the beginning, and then he needs to go back and 40 days after.
That's luchot. Luchot. Yeah. That's minhag. You talking about minhag?
Torah Moshe, the Torah Israel. What is that? Huh? Torah Israel. Torah Moshe. Yeah. Torah.
So tell me what that is. Go ahead.
Torah Moshe.
Hare at mekudeshet li betabatzo kedat Moshe veYisrael.
Not accident.
Chazak. What does it mean when a man says to a woman, Hare at mekudeshet li, you are sanctified unto me, betabatzo kaspa haden, whatever the custom is, right? Kedat Moshe veYisrael. What's dat Moshe? That's mitzvot from the Torah. Or that have to do with kiddushin, or have to do with living together as a couple. What is Yisrael? That's minhag. That's Rabbanan and minhagim. That is correct. Okay. So we see the Torah gives us, but Hanukkah is not mentioned in the Torah.
And it's not going to be when Mashiach comes.
Why you say that?
Hachamim hate the Hashmonaim. Because they took Kuhuna.
So you're saying Hanukkah is not going to be there in the time of the Mashiach?
And Hashmonaim end up being tzaddukim.
That's correct.
Hachamim hate them, and they say some places.
But we're celebrating the holiday of Hanukkah.
It says in the Gemara that one holiday is going to disappear when Mashiach comes, which is Hanukkah.
Okay, that's not what it says.
No,
that's not what it corrects. It's not what it says.
It's Purim, not Hanukkah.
Can we say what it does say? And then we can figure it out. What it says is, in the time of the Mashiach, everything, all the holidays are batel. Batel is the word used, with the exception of Purim and Kippurim. Those two are not batel. Purim and Kippurim.
Why not Purim?
First, let's understand, what does it mean all the holidays going to be batel? Pesach's going to be batel, which means we're going to have chametz on Pesach in the time of the Mashiach? No. What does it mean batel?
Secondary.
It's a halachic term in kashrut. What's the? There's a concept from the Torah of bitul, meaning what? That there's something that can be nullified in a significant amount of something that is permitted. So something that is asur, okay? If there's a mixture that happens with something that is mutar, that is permitted, and there are different circumstances, then as long as there's a certain amount of the mutar versus the asur, it's considered to be batel. So the classic example is basar b'halav. If a person is cooking a cholent, right? Tomer's they're making a cholent over there, and what happens? A little bit of milk falls into the cholent, and he mixes it in, right? Now he says to himself, is it 60 times? If there's 60 times more meat than there is milk, then it's called batel b'shishim. Yeah.
If you have majority kosher and a third not kosher, hazir. No, b'diavad. I'm talking b'diavad.
No.
By mistake.
From the Torah. Okay, from the Torah, it's chad bitre, 1 and 3.
So why you have?
2 and 3. Wait 1 second. But certain things are not 2 and 3. Okay, certain things are 2 and 3. I mean, there's a rove, which is 2 versus 3 times, right? There's 66% mutar and 33% asur, right? But that is not basar b'halav. Okay, from the Torah, basar b'halav is not allowed in the 60th. When you have 2 items that is min b'mino, then it is 2/3. Rabbinically, it's still 1/60th.
I don't think he understood the word min b'mino. The guy sent his servant, go buy me some meat. He went and bought 3-4 pieces of meat, kosher. And then he want to buy for himself a nice piece of ham for himself.
It's more complicated than that.
When he got to him, they got mixed up.
It's more complicated than that. The classic example is there's a piece of meat on the street.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is not the halakha today, because today we have the concept of basar ne'elam min ayin. When basar doesn't have the eyes of a Jew with it all the time, it's immediately you can't have it. Yes? But let's forget about customs or rabbinic, right? From the Torah, you have 10 butchers on a block. Okay? 9 of the butchers are kosher butchers. 1 butcher is taref. And you find a piece of meat outside all 10 stores. So when it's there's a concept of whatever separates from separates from the majority, not from the minority. So you could look at that piece of meat and that's kosher. Halachically, we don't hold like that. Okay? We're getting off topic here, but the concept of rove is 1/60th for kashrut across the board. Many things is Torah, many things is rabbinic, but vis-a-vis kashrut, it's 1/60th. Right, truma, it's 1/100th, and kilei hakerem, it's 1/200th. We have an example of something that is no batel. What's an example of something there is no batel? Chazir is batel, 1/60. Yeah. What is not batel? Afilu b'mashihu, it's not allowed. No, 1/60th. Come on, you guys know it.
Passover?
Of course, Hametz on Pesach. Hametz on Pesach.
Because of the
It's
karet.
not karet. Well, careful. That's not the reason. 1 in 1,000. I feel a bit elef labatil. It says. Yes. Why is it? There's many reasons given as to why this is rabbinic. This is not from the Torah. The rabbis were so strict with Hametz b'Pesach, but the very simple answer to that is it has shata kosher, which means once Pesach finishes, the Hametz is kosher.
Yes.
So since there's going to be a time when it's going to be kosher, we can be really, really strict on the holiday because we know it's not going to be wasted. When the holiday is finished, it's going to be kosher. Whereas something that is never going to be kosher, that's 1/60th. Okay? Avodah Zarah, by the way, is also 1 in 1, is also lo batil. There's no bitul for Avodah Zarah either. Okay? And there's other ideas of Chametz on Pesach is like Avodah Zarah. It doesn't.
Okay, you said Avodah Zarah.
But I'm giving you another example of something that there's no bitul. So now, coming back, all the holidays are going to be batel. What does that mean, all the holidays are going to be batel? You said it means we're not going to celebrate the holidays. I say, no, you're wrong. We are going to celebrate the holidays. What does that mean, that all the holidays are batel? That the greatness of the Yetziah from America is going to be at least 60 times the greatness of Yetziat Mitzrayim. So therefore, we're going to sit on Pesach and we're going to say, Man ishtana halayla hazeh mikol haleilot. And your kid is going to say to you, wait a minute, the Pesach story I know. Tell me what was like Yetziat America. What was it like when you left Boca? Please tell me what it was like. Which means the greatness of the time of the Mashiach is going to be 60 times the greatness of all the holidays are connected to Yetziat Mitzrayim.
Yeah. So,
but not Kippur. Kippur is not connected to Yetziat Mitzrayim.
No.
Right? And Purim is not connected to Yetziat Mitzrayim.
There will be those two.
Hanukkah is also not connected to Yetziat Mitzrayim, but Hanukkah wasn't that's a good question. Why is Hanukkah not going to be, why they say Purim and Kippurim? That's the ones that are brought as the ones who are not going to have, they're not going to be canceled. First of all, there's always going to be a concept of Teshuvah. What does Teshuvah mean? Getting close to Hashem, yes? I'll give you the answer. Hanukkah, we light the candles, yes? Why do we light the candles? Pirsumanes, the miracle that happened with the oil, yes? It represents the Torah, represents the permanence of the Jewish way of doing things, despite all the darkness that was surrounded by in Yavan, in Roma, in America, in Europe, in all these places. The darkness, the Torah, the light of the Torah will transcend all of history. That's why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, when he was given the choice, right before the destruction of the Second Temple, Yavne v'hachamea. Don't say the temple. We can live without the temple. It's a tremendous choice he made. Without the temple, we can live. We cannot live without Yavne v'hachamea. If people are not learning Torah, the Jewish people have no hope. They cannot get through the long exile. No, crazy.
Because he didn't ask for Jerusalem.
Again, it's a sugya there. I'm not sure everybody agrees that it was considered to be a mistake. And the proof is, how do you know it wasn't a mistake? Because we're still here. Okay? So Hanukkah, there's no real concept on Hanukkah of teshuvah. Yes, there's no teshuvah. Hanukkah doesn't have a concept of teshuvah. Kippur has a concept of teshuvah. What about Purim? How do we understand that? How is Purim all about Shuvah? Good. Lech Knosset Kol HaYodim, right? But we have two holidays, Purim and Kippurim. Don't call it Kippurim. Kippurim, meaning what? Yom Kippur is like Purim. If something is like something, which is more important? The Purim. Why is that? How do we understand that? How is it? Both of them have to do with Teshuvah, but there's a big difference between Teshuvah and Purim and Teshuvah and Kippurim. Good. They accepted the Torah Shebel Peh. Very good. That's what it says in the Megillah. What else? Kippur is Teshuvah from Yir'ah. Just pray with the Ashkenazim, you'll know. We recognize this Yir'ah, but there's also some Ahava there, yes? But the tone of Kippur is still, they're called Yamim Noraim, which means the way we get close to Hashem on Kippur and Rosh Hashanah to Kippur is with awe, Yir'ah. And that's why we don't eat, and that's why we don't have relations, and that's why we don't drink. Purim is different. Purim is Teshuvah from Ahava, which means you eat and you drink. Which is harder? Is it harder to be from eating and drinking or harder to be from fasting? Of course. Much harder. You think what happens? People drink on Purim and then they drink and they're vomiting all over the floor. That is not called Avodat Hashem. Not saying a person shouldn't drink, but not to the point where Chilul Hashem, Hatzalah has to come and rescue your body and take you to the house. That is not Yirat Hashem. That is Ahavat Atzmo. That's not Ahavat Hashem either. And that's why these two holidays, Purim and Kippurim, are never batel. So coming back, so we understand that Hanukkah is a rabbinic holiday, but the rabbi is always trying to find a source in the Torah. Whenever the rabbis make a decree, I said before, we have a siyag of the Torah, a fence. What do the rabbis do? They recognize that they need to make fences around the Torah. And what do they see? They see the Torah makes a fence around herself regarding having relations with Nidah, El Isha b'nidat devota al tikrav, which means what? The Isur is to be sleeping with her. That's the karet. But also it says lo tikrav, which means don't even come close. Don't kiss, don't hug, because what's going to happen? If you do that, then you're going to chas v'shalom have relations. Yes? Chibuk v'nishuk, kissing and hugging, this is Isur midoraita, but malkut, lashes. A person sleeps with the nidah, that is the karet. So you see the Torah makes a fence. So the rabbis from here learn we can make fences. The rabbis always try to find what's called asmachta. Asmachta in the Torah. Now sometimes there's a machloket in the Gemara. I'll say it is asmachta or is it a doraita concept, yes? So what's the asmachta for Hanukkah? Yeah.
Even don't see any asmachta, I don't think sometimes he said even asmachta. Sometimes the Gemara doesn't give you an asmachta.
No, but it's fair that you have asmachta.
It's
going to be much more easier to.
They try very hard to find asmachta. For any gezerah they make, they try to find asmachta. That means something to lean on. They want to find something. So I'll show you. We'll see the example. Where is the asmachta for Chanukah? Yeah. What's the pasuk? What's the pasuk? Think about it. Why is it when we finish reading on the 8th day, we don't stop at the end of the Nisi'im? We continue on, and we don't. And okay, nice. We finish up until the 12th, even though those only 8 candles. Yes, but we continue on into Parashat Beha'alotecha. And what does it say over here? Vaydaber Adonai Moshe lemor daber el Aharon de'amarta ela beha'alotecha tanerot el mu penei hamenorah ya'iru shivat tanerot. Let's look at Rashi. What does Rashi say here? Lama nismecha parashat hamenorah lefarashat hanesiim. Why is it that what we mean by parasha? You know what we mean by parasha? What do we mean by parasha? Parasha petucha, parasha setuma. What we call parashat hashavua is not really accurate. It's really a sidra. A sidra is made up of many parashot. You look at a Sefer Torah. There are some that are petucha, which means it's open, and you go to the next line like a return. And then sometimes you have 9 spaces between 2 words. That's called parasha setuma. So the Rashi is asking, why is it that the parasha of Beha'alotecha is connected to the parashot of the presence of the presidents. Yes, the Nisi'im. What does Rashi say? Lefi shekeshera ata Aaron Chanukata Nisi'im. Halshala azdato. He became weak. Why did he become weak? Because what did Aaron say? All right, I'll let all these guys, sort of like a big donor. What does he do? All right, they need $100,000. Yes, so what happens? The big donor says, whatever they don't have, I will supplant, right? So if it's a cheap shul, the donor has to give 80K. If it's a shul that's going to give hazak, the donor doesn't have anything left, right? And when we're talking Am Yisrael and Midbar, what do we know in Am Yisrael and Midbar? They had to go and say, enough, stop bringing. When they were building the Mishkan, what does it say? Enough. That's why we have plenty. Thank you so much. Right? They kept bringing and bringing and bringing. This is what we see in the Torah. So Aharon figured, okay, I'll wait and see what the Nisi'im bring. And whatever they don't bring, I'll bring. And what did he realize? They brought, first of all, they brought exactly the same thing, each one of them, a big, big gift. And it was all, they didn't talk to each other. So it's Chalshad Dato. He became weak because he said to himself, wow, I missed out on this opportunity. Shelo haya imahem b'Hanukkah. Because why? He's not participating. A Jew should feel bad if they're not participating in the obligations of the congregation. Lo hu v'lo shifto. Because why? Levi also didn't participate. So Aaron, as the president of Shevet Levi, and Shevet Levi did not participate. Shelo haya imahem b'Hanukkah lo hu v'lo shifto. Amalu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem said to Aaron, Hayecha, shelcha gedola mishelahem. Yours is greater than theirs. Shata madlik umetiva tanerot. You're going to light the candles. How is that better than how is that better than the gifts that the Nisi'im gave? First of all, it's 420 years. And then it was again for 420, another 410, 830 altogether, yes? And not just 830. Because the entire Ness of Hanukkah happened through the Kohanim, Shevet Levi, Matityahu, right? Kohen Gadol, Matityahu ben Yohanan, Kohen Gadol. So we see this is the opportunity that Aharon in the future is going to participate, or the Kohanim, in another Hanukkah Tabayit, a rededication of the temple. When? In the time of Hanukkah. So and this is going to last all the way through the exile, which means this is not going to end after 830 years when the second temple is destroyed. This is going to continue on for all of the exile. This is the asmachta that they have for the idea of Hanukkah. Okay. Now, here's a question. How many days Hanukkah? 8, yes? What was the miracle? The oil. They had oil for one day, and they lit it for that one day, and it lasted for 8 days, yes? So then the miracle is 7 days. No, because they took... Let's understand the question first. I know you understand. I want to make sure everybody else understands the question.
One of those 8 days is not really
so, one of those 8 days is not a miracle. Where was the miracle? On day number 2 through that. So why we light 8? That's the Bet Yosef. The Bet Yosef's opinion, he asked this question. And his answer is no, that's not what they did. What they did is they had 1 day's worth. They knew it would take 8 days to get oil from Asher, which is where the olive oil was there. So what did they do? They cut it in 1/8. Better to have a little bit of light than all at one shot. Right? Same thing with tzedakah. Is it better to give $1,000 for tzedakah one time, or to give $1 1,000 times? $1 1,000 times.
Depends who you ask. The guy who gave the shul or the person.
The president's happy if he gets $1. It's okay. Don't worry about it. As long as he does not, as long as he give him another $1 the next day and then. If everybody's giving $1 every time they pray, we'd be in good shape over here. Yeah. Anyway, listen, expensive around the shul. I don't have to tell you that. Anyway, so we see from here what they broke it up. Another opinion says no. The first day, what was the miracle? Okay. What's another answer? We're missing something. On Purim. Yes, Purim. Why is it the 14th of Adar? And why in the walled city is it the 15th of Adar?
Because it was the time that was the Torah that did it.
No,
because it's outside.
The Goral was the 13th. So the Jewish people fought against their enemies on the 13th. That's what the Megillah says. And they were able to rest on the 14th. And because they were victorious in the fight, that's why the 14th of Adar is the holiday of Purim for all cities that don't have a wall since the time of Yoshua ben Nun. It just so happened in Shushan, which was a walled city since the time of Yoshua ben Nun, there were many more Gentiles there who hated the Jewish people, okay? So they weren't able to finish off all the Goyim on the 13th. They needed the 13th and the 14th. So when did the war stop? On the 14th. So then the holiday is on the 15th. So we understand from Hanukkah, the 25th of Kislev, the first day is commemorating what? The victory of the war. And then you have 7 days after. Okay, different opinions.
Okay.
Listen, it's like Purim. Why should it be different?
So how many did we celebrate the first year of victory?
It took them three. It took them.
1 year, yeah?
It took them 3 years.
3 years.
This is and why did it take? Why on Purim? It only took 1 day to kill off all of Amalek, but with the Chashmonaim, it took 3 years.
Because בפורים, והרשות נבדי המלך, ובפורים המלך helped them and everything.
You're missing the point.
What?
What's that? On Purim, there was Achdut of Yisrael. That is correct. On Hanukkah, there was no Achdut of Yisrael. Why? What do we say in Al Anisim? Let's look at the Gemara. Siddur. Have a Siddur? No, keep going. The Zidim biyad oseke Toratecha. All the other ones are vis-a-vis the Goyim. Yes? Right? Tmeim biyad Tehorim. Right? Me'atim biyad Rabim. Yes? What is it mean Zedim biyad oseke Toratecha? Who are the Zedim? Laminim ve'lamalshim. Baruch Ata Hashem machnia Zedim. What is Zedim? Zedim are Jews. Again, not Shomrei Torah mitzvot. That's they're doing that exactly. They're not only that, but they're basically abandoning ship, convincing other Jews, Mesitu Mediach, convincing other Jews to accept the culture. So the big war of Matityahu wasn't so much against the Greeks. The big war was against Maharivayich Memech Yetzeu. Are coming from inside. When the enemy is on the when the enemy's on the outside, okay, the Gentiles want to kill us. We know exactly what we got to do, right? We tell all the civilians of Hamas, even though I think that some of them are also should go, get out of the way, and they wipe them out. But the problem is, what about the ones that are Me'amenu, the ones that are Neged Be'amenu? Those are much, much more difficult. You just can't kill them. They're brothers. That's why Hanukkah took 3 years. What's that? Hanukkah took, first of all, because there was there wasn't enough unity amongst the Jewish people, right? And on top of that, also the fact that there was fighting amongst the Jewish people themselves. The Mityavnim. Matityahu wasn't only fighting against, he was fighting with a sword against those, the Yevanim, but the Mityavnim, you can't fight them with a sword. I mean, if you have to, if they're Mitzvah Midyach, you can, right? Or if they're Malshin. But think about who made the prayer of Laminim. Who made the prayer? Which Chachamim? Which Chacham?
No.
Bet Dinosha Rabban Gamliel.
כן, רבן, כן.
What happened was there were 18 brachot in the Shemona Esrei, yes? That's why it's called Shemona Esrei. But if you count them up, there are 19. So what happened in the time of Rabban Shimon Gamliel?
זמינים למצבים עדיתי כבר כל הדברים כרגע ולכל...
We know. But what happened? There were Jewish people who were being convinced that either they wanted to adopt Roman culture, or like the Siddukim, rejecting the Torah Shebe'al Peh, rejecting the concept of Tchiyat HaMetim, or there were the early Christians, Jews who had funny ideas in their head about Yeshu. So what happened was they were afraid. This is what Rambam says very, very clearly. They were very afraid because what the initial Jewish people who were Christians, let's say those, the Minim, yes? They did all the mitzvot of the Torah.
300
They
years.
put on tefillin. They were Shomer Shabbat. They did everything 100%. Only one thing, they had a bad idea of God in their head. What's the problem? How do you know? How do you know who's a min? And the last thing you want is the person who's Shaliach Tzibur to be a min. Why is that? Siman ra l'shol chav. So they put a bracha in there that the person would have to go up and curse himself and all of his minions. So what would happen? They would ask you to be Shaliach Tzibur. No, thank you. And that's why the halacha is, if a chazan, a Shaliach Tzibur, makes a mistake in any beracha, what do? You correct him. If he makes a mistake in the beracha of minim, you take him down.
Oh,
Because maybe he's a min.
it's Hashud.
It's hashud. If he's going to change, what does he mean make a mistake? Not he makes a mistake, is mem gam gam. That's not what we're talking about. He changes the words, which means he softens it up. Oh, okay, you. Then you have the right tomer to go, excuse me? Yalla, off. Get someone else up there. We're going to start from the beginning. I'm not saying to do that. It has to, not embarrass somebody publicly. But that's why a person who tries to change the bracha of minim, we take him down from the Shaliach Tzibur. So that was a way of protecting the Jewish people from having someone be Shaliach Tzibur that was a min. And in that bracha we say Shover Oivim, which means the Goyim, Umachnia Zedim. What is Zedim? It doesn't say destroy the Zedim. Because why? These are our brothers and sisters. So what does it say? Machnia. What is Machnia? Put them down. Let them realize that they're wrong. So now come back to the what we say in Al Nisim. Zedim biyad oseke toratecha. What is that talking about? Oseke toratecha. These are people who shomer Torah mitzvot. What is the Zedim? People who are not shomer Torah mitzvot, not goyim. Those were Jews. No difference. Problem is the Ashkenazi make lots of mistakes, Shaliach Tzibur, so you have to be careful. Depends on who they appoint that day. The whole concept of the yortzeit, Baruch Hashem, that's not a problem for us so much. A person, if he has a yortzeit and he could be Shaliach Tzibur, Badal, no problem. A person has a yortzeit and doesn't know how to be Shaliach Tzibur, Habibi, sit in your seat, say Kaddish, someone else will be Shaliach Tzibur. We do not allow the Shaliach Tzibur just because he has a yortzeit. The first criteria he has to be Shaliach Tzibur. If he's not able to be Shaliach Tzibur, his yortzeit doesn't have any weight regarding the congregation, at least amongst the Sfaradim. Right? You need someone who's able to do it. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about. So we have the 8 days, yes? A person, the mitzvah is done by Hanacha or Hadlaka? Hadlaka. The bracha is Ladlik Ner Hanukkah. What does that mean if the bracha is Hadlaka? That means when you set it up, you have to make sure that there's enough oil, or if it's wax, to last for at least 30 minutes. On Shabbat, you have to make sure there's enough oil to last 30 minutes after Tzeta Kochavim. It depends on what time you're lighting. If you're lighting an hour before because you have a long walk to go someplace, something like that, you have to put enough oil so it's burning 30 minutes after, 20 minutes after sunset. That is the ideal time for doing the mitzvah of Hanukkah. From sun, not sunset, but from star rise, which is 20 minutes after sunset, ke'esrim dakot, which is 30 minutes later. That is where. So, if you don't have enough oil in there, what happens? No good. You have to light again. No bracha though. Okay. What if a person put the Chanukiah in a place where there was a wind, and he knew there was a wind there, and the wind blew the candles out? He has to light them again. If he put the Chanukiah in a place where there is no wind, and somebody walked by and the candles went out, he's not obligated to relight them, because when he lit them, they had the potential to be lit for one whole, for the amount of time, which is 30 minutes. Any questions on? Yes.
What is it?
No bracha.
How we said ner shel Hanukkah or ner Hanukkah?
We don't say. The Ashkenazim sell ner shel. We say
the whole Ayarim. ner shel Hanukkah. כולם אשכנזים.
להדליק ner Hanukkah.
ner Hanukkah.
להדליק ner Hanukkah.
So why the rest of the people said?
That's their custom.
Ashkenazim.
That's their custom.
No, but
It's like Havdalah. Let's help you on this one. Havdalah. Sitting or standing?
or Shabbat, ner shel Shabbat.
You find me what you want. Havdalah, sitting or standing? Sitting.
בטח.
Why is Havdalah sitting? When a person makes kiddush, yes?
או קידוש של שבת.
Friday night, you make kiddush, you stand.
Yeah, but that's Malachim that coming.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Malachim bאים לדבר, המלאכי, אתה אומר, שלום עליכם,
You
עליכם
sent them
שלום.
away, but said chen, they went away already.
אבל
No.
בספר שלום, היא לא מסתלבט אתכם.
You,
לא, אבל בעמידה, קידוש.
in the kiddush, not the amidah, in the kiddush on the yain, you stand. Why do you stand? There's only one mitzvah from the Torah that you do sitting, that you have to do sitting. Of course, Birkat Hamazon. Birkat Hamazon must be done sitting.
No, we're talking about Kiddush. In one.
Therefore, a person has to be standing when we're making Kiddush. Why? Because that's mitzvah aseh from the Torah. Kiddush bidvarim, by saying Mekadesh HaShabbat, that is mitzvah aseh from the Torah. Yes? Now, when you make the Kiddush, how do you drink the wine?
בישיבה.
You sit. Why? Because wine is like a seudah. So just like, you can show me inside, that's okay. Shulchan Aruch says very clearly.
רמה, אני אביא לך.
The Ramah, we don't follow the Ramah. B'nei Ashkenaz yotzim bat Ramah.
בנוגע
אז
לעמידה,
רואים שבת, קידוש, you see.
So now, Shabbat morning, it's derabanan, it's not doraita. So we want to make a difference between the Kiddush at night, which is from the Torah, okay, and the Kiddush in the morning, which is Kiddusha derabanan. Kiddush
The
derabanan.
first sip is going to be
Standing? No.
Standing?
Sitting. Kiddush is just like eating is done sitting, drinking wine is done sitting. Seudah. Wine has the ability to make a seudah almost, okay, because you have alamechiyat, okay? Now, what about Havdalah? Why does it have to be sitting? First of all, the one who's making the Havdalah has to be sitting because you're going to drink the wine. Habibi, I'm sorry, we don't follow the Ramah.
look, we bring stuff, we bring משנה ברורה.
Great, Mishnah Berurah, very nice. Very nice.
Look, what I told you. בנוגע לעמידה וישיבה בהבדלה, יש מנהגים חלוקים. המנהג הנכון יותר לכתחילה, שכולם ישבו בהבדלה. אולם, אם המבדיל עומד, על כל היוצאים, בידי חובה בברכתו, לעמוד כמוהו.
טוב, אבל זה לא...
באופן כזה ראוי לעמוד סמוך לו, ולא
אבל
להתפזר
לא טוב
בחדר.
שהוא עושה.
כדי שידע שמקובצים לכת ההבדלה.
לא טוב שהוא עומד.
אבל אם
First
הוא
of all-
עומד, אתם צריכים לעמוד.
Okay, im hu omed. What is that language? Im hu omed. What is that language?
What do you mean,
What? No,
לא, מה
that's
זה
what I'm
אומר?
asking. Im hu omed is
לא.
But if he's standing,
Rega.
if he's standing.
what does it mean if he's standing? Translate that into halakhic language. There's lechat techila and there's b'di avad.
Mhm. לא.
Lechat techila, he should be sitting.
Okay.
B'di avad, he's a yotzeh is standing. But here's what: do we want to be yotzeh b'di avad? We want to be yotzeh. So we tell the person, Habibi, have a seat.
But we're doing standing all the time.
לא, זה-
Okay. So as long as the
That's what I told you, they have to
as
stand,
long
but
as the
he's
president and the vice president don't think it's going to cause machloket in the shul, okay? If we have a minhag that is a mistake or it's whatever, we have to change it, right? If the halacha says miyoshev, you sit.
There's really in Israel, the Moroccan synagogue, the Gabbai, when he did the Abdallah, he sits.
He explained why.
Okay, so we have to be mahazir ha'atara leyoshna.
גם פה לא-
He explained explain why. No, I said, look, הסיבה לכך שראוי לשבת הוא משום שכדי לצאת ידי חובה בברכותיו צריך שיקבעו עצמם לעשות הבדלה יחד. בעיקר הקביעות היא בישיבה.
So the simple answer.
אם הוא עומד והם ישבו, לא ניכר שהם קבועים. לכן כאשר הוא עומד, גם השומעים יעמדו.
And the better answer is, you tell the person making Havdalah to sit, you tell everybody to sit, and you do it the right way, you say lechatchila. So,
He was standing.
and if you're going to smell the besamim, and you're going to drink the wine, you have to be sitting.
Rabbi, you know what happened here? Because many years ago, we didn't have the tables. We just had tables 5-6 years ago. So we had a tradition to stand. If you was a table 20 years ago, we put it.
Okay, so so Baruch Hashem, we have something concept called Shiva Tovei Ha'ir. That is, we have something called Shiva Tovei Ha'ir, right? The 7 people who are what's called Tovei Ha'ir, people who are elected to a position in the shul of leadership. And we follow, again, if it's against the halakha, we have to fix it, right? If it's not against the halakha, but it's a b'di avad, we basically fix it as long as it doesn't cause machloket, no problem. So, fair, problem solved. Very good. No problem. Then, because what happens now? Everybody goes home. Some people, they see Havdalah standing. And what do? They go home. And what do? They're also standing. That's not good.
I didn't know that it was a big deal to not stand.
And why is it a big deal to sit? Because you drink it. Because it's Havdalah is a kibbut.
Yeah, when you drink the wine, you sit. Even the one who stands.
But what about the besamim?
No big deal, Rabbi. We'll start doing it here, and that's it.
As long as it doesn't cause machloket, that's all. That's key. As long as no machloket, we're good. Okay, so coming back. So we want to try to do things b'di'av. There's 3 concepts we have to learn. One is lechat techila, one is b'di'avad, and one is shat hadachak. What's the difference? What is that? No, it's always intentionally. If you're not doing it intentionally,
The right way to do it.
there are many de'ot, right? There are many opinions. In certain halakha, there's lots of machloket. So lechatchila. What is that? Either all the opinions are yotzeh lechol hadeot, or you're yotzeh most of the opinions. That's called lechatchila. Sometimes you can't be yotzeh all the opinions because one opinion says X and one opinion says Y. So you want to be yotzeh most of the opinions. If you look at any of Chacham Avadi's teshuvot, how does he do a teshuvah? He brings the question, and then he brings 100 people that agree with him and 30 people that disagree with him. So what does that mean? Ahare rabim la'atot. I win because I got 100 people that agree with me. Okay? So we go according to the majority. Same thing here. So lechatchila, the majority of the opinions will fulfilling the mitzvah. What is b'di avad? Not necessarily the majority, but we're still doing enough that we don't have to repeat the mitzvah. It's b'di avad. We're yotzeh. What does yotzeh mean? Acceptable, but not ideal. Right? And then there's something called shat hadachak. What is shat hadachak?
Maybe it's one opinion. Most of them not.
One opinion. In a situation of shat hadachak, one can rely on one opinion, okay, and that one opinion could live. I'll give you a very classic example from halakha that we need some work to do in Boca Raton. Baruch Hashem in Woodmere, 15 years ago was a problem. Now it's not a problem anymore. Okay? There's the concept of kemach yashan.
Oh, yeah.
What is kemach yashan?
That was harvest before.
After the Omer, which is on the 16th of Nisan, any wheat that grew in the winter that was more than a third grown, now once Avad HaPesach, which is the 16th of Nisan, which is the time Ktziat Omer, yes, that wheat is permitted to eat. Any wheat that is not 1/3 grown by the time of the 16th of Nisan, or any wheat that grows after the 16th of Nisan, okay, that wheat is not allowed to be eaten until after the next Pesach. One is called Hadash, and one is called Yashan. Now, the issue of Hadash, is it a Torah prohibition or is it a rabbinic prohibition? It's from the Torah. Hadash is asur from the Torah. That's something else. There you go. So now what happened? So Shulchan Aruch, you have to have Kemach Yashan. No question about that. Even outside of Eretz Yisrael, there is one opinion, the Beit Hadash, one opinion that says Kemach Yashan is only in the land of Israel. Hadash is only in the land of Israel. Outside the land of Israel, there's no concept of Hadash. One opinion. What happened? The Ashkenazim were living in places where all their wheat was generally Hadash. So if they wouldn't have permitted them to eat that, they would have nothing to eat. So they relied on the opinion of the Bah, Shatadachak, no bread. That makes it very hard to celebrate holidays, yes? And by the way, it's any kemach. It's all the 5 grains, yes? So therefore, they followed the opinion of the Beit Hadash for hundreds of years because that was all that there was. Now fast forward to America, okay? In the beginning, okay, most of the wheat that we had in the supermarket was Yashan. Why was it Yashan? Because there was a surplus of wheat in this country. Baruch Hashem, this country has a lot of wheat that grows. And there was a surplus. And when you have a store, okay, if you're a Gentile, say, what do you sell? The new stuff or the old stuff? You sell the old stuff. So the reality of the situation was in 1960, in 1970, in 1980, okay? During those years, the wheat that was in the marketplace was Yashan. What changed? The fall of the Iron Curtain. That changed. And what happens now? What do? We sell surplus wheat to other countries. And what do we sell other countries? The new stuff or the old stuff? The old stuff. We keep the new stuff for ourselves. So now, over the course since, say, 1980, 1990, 2000, Kemach Yashan became that most of the wheat that's after is Kemach Hadash.
According to Rabbi Shabtai, he said in the gold medal flour, you see the KC is Yashan.
Baruch Hashem. But we have to work on our restaurants and stores and things like that.
Michael, how you say that Rabbi said, he says, if you don't have the lechem, you're allowed to eat lechem shel paterim, patakum. So how come that is bad? Probably for sure is lechem.
Okay, lechem akum still has to be, if it's lechem akum, it still can't be kemach chadash. Then it's not allowed.
So how he says you're allowed?
Okay,
he says if you're in a place that you don't have a pot, you can eat pot.
That's something else. That's not kemach yashan. That's not a kemach yashan, a kemach hadash issue. That's an issue. There is no kosher bread.
But if you know the problem, you would say not allowed to eat at all.
Again, you'd have to show me on the inside exactly what he's writing and how he's writing it, what the context. What's the question that is being asked?
The question is, if it's not allowed to eat kemach hadash,
yeah.
So Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef or Rav Vadia, we're not allowed to eat lechem shel goy.
Okay, I don't think that was the question they were answering. I don't think that was the question they were answering. The question they were answering is: you have a Jewish guy on a business trip, and he's in a place in France, and in France there's no kosher bakery where he is. Yes, okay. French bread has 2 ingredients: wheat and water. That's it. There's nothing else in there, right? So as long as he goes into the bakery, and he knows that they're only using wheat and water, he can buy bread from a non-hashgacha, but he's not allowed to go to a private guy's house. Patpal allowed, which means buy it from a store is allowed. Going to your French friend's house and having French bread in his house that his wife made, that is not allowed, even if he are having French bread. Because really, if you think about it, what is the problem with pat palter? It's a gezerah midrabanan. It's a rabbinic. There are certain things the rabbis did for a harchaka, right? Yain, right? Bishul, right? Yain mevushal, kemach palter, which means to bake goods from a Gentile. There's certain things, milk, halav Yisrael. Yes, these are all things that the rabbis made prohibitions on, so we shouldn't have interactions with Gentiles, right? In a situation where there's nothing else for him to eat, but it still can't be kemach hadash.
Kemach Hashem applies only for wheat, or can I
All
eat
5 grains.
Oh, the whole five? Oh.
Rabbi, I was in an event once and I saw one of the rabbis and tell him, he said, Kemach Hashem, what was it? He said, I go by Shita of Shlomo HaMelech. I said, really what? He said, En Chadash Tachat Hashem.
Sipurei Savta. All right. So just to summarize, so that's an example. Why did I bring that as an example? Not to cause trouble. I brought that as an example. Why? To illustrate Shat HaDachak. Yes? In a Shat HaDachak, then one is permitted. But what in a Shat HaDachak? Once that Dachak is removed, then you have to no longer follow that opinion, and you have to go to the B'di'avad L'chat Techila.
That's the problem with Chalab Nochri. That the Rav Feinstein Itir, and this now they bring Chalab, any Chalab they bring. That's
Okay, we have a kashrut issue, we have a spiritual issue.
no, kashrut issue.
Okay, why did Rav Moshe Feinstein permit non-Chalav Yisrael?
Why? Because it says here, they pachad hagoyim, shelo stuff like this. But
There is no way
Inshallah.
you buy milk in this country and it's got camel.
no,
Never.
What?
Never.
But that's
Only for
not,
cows.
okay, that's two problems.
No donkey.
Because I asked
No.
Chabad, they tell me there's two problems. Number one, in the north, what they do to the cows, they puncture little holes in their stomach, so they have gas come out and they can eat more and they can produce more milk. It's a known trick. That's number one. Number two, when a guy is a farmer that is 50 miles, 100 miles away from the main place, they add some places. If you add pork, pig milk into the milk, it preserves it. You can do very simple experiment. You take Chalav Israel, you take Chalav OU, and you take Mercator. Who's gonna go bad first? Chalav Israel. Number 2, the OU, and number 3, Chalav Mercator stays. Another thing, my friend, is the Mashiach Kashrut. He says that the main dairy producer for Mercator, whatever, they run what they call eggnog in this holiday, which has something in it. When they rinse, they do special lines for that. After that, they start doing the regular milk. They just rinse with water.
Okay.
They don't really.
First question: are you Chabad?
Huh?
Are you Chabad?
No, this is Chabad Rabbi told me.
Okay.
So
Chabad.
ask him.
What if the utensils are all cold?
He's not mixing. He's not, you know,
What do you mean? They run with hot water and stuff like this.
If they run it with hot water, then then it washes it away.
No, he said it doesn't wash well, and you know that if you're just rinsing by water, it's not gonna wash it
that was
completely.
cheap, no?
And what about the cows that they make them treff?
Again, I don't know what to do with that. First of all, there's no way. Most cows are kosher, right? You're telling me they purposely make cows treif.
Yeah. Because the cow,
Huh?
it's a lot of stuff that produces a lot of gas. So if you take out, it's known trick. They make those little tiny holes in their stomach, and the holes and the gas.
I'd have to look at
they
that.
make more, yeah?
I've never heard of that
I'll
before.
give you the rabbi's number.
I don't need his number.
Rabbi Big Bull, huh?
I don't need his number.
Did you hear something about big
Rabbi
meal?
Big Bull,
No.
I never heard that.
It sounds like a little bit. Forgive me, Lubavitch propaganda. I'd have to see that. We'd have to check the facts on that one. So Halav Yisrael, there are spiritual reasons why a person should have Halav Yisrael, spiritual, which means always have Halav Yisrael. But in the United States, because most of the milk comes from places that, because of the government is very strict on the milk, therefore a person can have Halav Goyim. Any other questions? But it should have OU on it. It should be kosher. It doesn't have to be. It has to be kosher. Any questions?
Well, why all the kosher places they insist only on halal Israel?
Because that's the best.
Huh?
That's the best.
What's the best of it?
When you have a shul, there should be no compromise in kashrut, ever. Never. What you bring into a bet knesset should be yotzeh lechol hadeot without any questions, right? What a person does that's the Sephardic way. What a person does in their house, we love them, they're fellow Jews, but that's their business. I could choose whether to eat in his house or not eat in his house, yes? But when when it comes to bet knesset, meat has to be halak, yes? Has to be Kemach Yashan,
Bet
Bet
Yosef.
Yosef.
You put
Yes, we have to be very careful because this is a place where we want everybody to feel comfortable. We don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, and that's why we pick the most strict when it comes time to Bet Knesset. Baruch Adonai Le'olam Amen ve'Amen.
Exactly.